welcome to Chore Chapters, because everyday tasks need good company. I'm Leo, and with me as always, we have got Luna.
Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a thrilling and interesting story lined up, so grab your headphones and let's dive straight into the story.
We're diving into the world of cold cases today. You know, those enduring mysteries where time seems to be the biggest obstacle. But every so often, a flicker of hope ignites, sometimes decades later, proving that unsolvable might just mean, well, not solved yet.
Exactly. A cold case is basically where all the usual leads have just dried up. The initial investigation hits a wall.
Right.
What's really remarkable, though, is how new technologies or maybe different perspectives or sometimes just sheer persistence can breathe new life into them.
And that's precisely where our focus lies today. The infamous Zodiac Killer, specifically his long unbroken Z340 Cipher.
Ah, yes, the Z340.
For over half a century, this cryptic message was just this massive challenge. It kind of embodied the whole frustrating nature of cold cases, didn't it? And the mystery around this guy.
Absolutely. I mean, the Zodiac's actual reign of terror in the late 60s San Francisco Bay Area, that's chilling enough even before you get to the ciphers. We know about at least 5 confirmed murders between December 68 and October 69. He targeted young couples mostly in places like Benicia, Vallejo, Napa County, and there's also a cab driver in San Francisco.
And some victims survived, but didn't get a great look.
Right. 2 did survive, thankfully. But yeah, their accounts offered only pretty limited details about the attacker.
But what really pushed the Zodiac into public infamy was him directly contacting people, taunting the press and the police.
Those letters, they were really unsettling, full of misspellings, marked with that crosshair symbol everyone knows now.
That symbol, yeah.
And often they included these ciphers, messages he claimed held the key to who he was.
Okay, so let's talk Z340. That was the big one.
It really was. Sent to the San Francisco Chronicle November 8th, 1969, came with a weird dripping pen card and another typically disturbing message.
Just pure taunting.
Pure taunting. And the cipher itself was this grid, 340 characters, arranged 20 lines by 17 characters each. And importantly, it used even more unique symbols than his earlier Z408 cipher.
Ah, the Z408. That one got solved pretty quickly, didn't it, by amateurs?
Relatively quickly, yeah. Which is kind of ironic, isn't it? And that leads to the contrast you mentioned.
Right, so the thinking is maybe cracking the Z408 fast kind of pushed the Zodiac to make something way tougher.
That's a very strong theory. He seemed to want to prove he was smarter than everyone, and the Z340 definitely achieved that for a very long time. 51 years, it resisted the best efforts of, the FBI, the NSA, naval intelligence.
The big guns?
The big guns, plus just countless dedicated amateur codebreakers trying their hand at it.
So that quick solution to the Z408 might have really fueled his ego, his need to create this masterpiece of complexity.
It seems likely. It fits the psychological profile, this need to maintain an image of intellectual superiority, of outsmarting everyone. We should probably also mention the other shorter ciphers he sent, the Z13 and Z32.
Right, they're still unsolved too.
Technically unsolved, yeah. But they're so short and use enough different symbols that it's incredibly difficult, maybe impossible, to be certain you have the one unique, correct solution. There could be multiple plausible decryptions.
Okay. So the Zodiac wasn't just about the violence itself. He was playing this psychological game using the media.
Absolutely. By demanding the papers publish his ciphers. I mean, he essentially forced them to become part of his campaign of terror. It amplified public fear, which must have been exactly what he wanted.
Okay, but then the story shifts, right? The breakthrough on the Z340, it didn't come from a dusty evidence box.
No, not at all. It came from this amazing, persistent effort by a group of private citizens working together across the globe, basically using modern tools and computing power.
It's like a digital age detective story unfolding online instead of in some smoky back room.
Totally. And the core team, the ones who really cracked it, were 3 key people. David Orenchak, who's an American software developer and cryptologist.
Okay.
Sam Blake, an applied mathematician from Australia.
Wow, international.
And Jarl van Eyck, a programmer from Belgium. So yeah, a real international effort.
That's fantastic. And they each brought something different to the table.
Exactly. Orenchak, for instance, had been working on this specific cipher for 14 years. He even had a YouTube series, Let's Crack Zodiac.
No way.
Yeah, which actually helped build this online community, sharing ideas, keeping the effort alive. Then you have Blake, the mathematician, who used software, things like Mathematica, to just systematically churn through tons of possible ways this cipher might have been scrambled, the transposition patterns.
Okay, transposition, so like rearranging the letters.
Precisely. Blake apparently mentioned that the focus time during the COVID-19 lockdowns actually helped him dedicate the intense effort needed for this kind of analysis, looking for patterns like reading diagonally, things like that.
And the third person, Van Eyck.
Van Eyck developed this piece of software called a Z340. It was specifically designed for tackling complex substitution ciphers, especially homophonic ones.
Homophonic, meaning one letter can be represented by multiple different symbols.
You got it. Like having several nicknames for the same letter, it makes it way harder to crack using simple frequency analysis. Van Eyck's software could test just a massive number of possibilities very quickly, using techniques like simulated annealing, stuff that just wasn't feasible decades ago.
Okay, so let's get into the how. What was the actual method?
Well, the basic strategy was twofold. First, figure out how the letters were jumbled up, that's reversing the transposition. And then, once you hopefully have the letters in the right order, figure out the substitution, which symbol stands for which letter.
And Blake figured out the jumbling part, that transposition.
His contribution there was huge. He identified this likely diagonal reading pattern, something like 1 step down, 2 steps across. But the real breakthrough, the aha moment, was realizing the grid wasn't just one big block.
Oh, okay.
It seemed to be divided into 3 vertical sections, or segments. The first 9 rows, the next 9 rows, and then the last 2 rows. And crucially, the transposition pattern seemed to restart or change within each segment.
That's intricate. So it wasn't just one simple pattern across the whole thing.
Not at all. And once they had a promising rearrangement for a segment based on this idea, that's when they really leaned on Van Eyck's AZ-Decrypt software and the idea of using cribs.
Cribs, like cheat codes. Or guesses.
Educated guesses, exactly. Short phrases they thought the Zodiac was likely to use based on his previous letters and his known obsessions.
Like what?
Things like, hope you are, or trying to catch me, maybe the gas chamber. He'd mentioned that after someone called into a TV show claiming to be him.
Right, right. So you tell the software, try assuming the sequence of symbols means gas chamber.
Precisely. You lock in those potential cribs, and the software can then use that foothold to start figuring out the rest of the substitution key much more effectively.
Okay, but I remember reading it wasn't quite that straightforward. There was a snag.
There was a big one. It looks like the Zodiac himself actually made a mistake when he was creating the cipher.
He messed up his own code.
It seems that way. Specifically, within the second segment, that middle block of 9 rows, the transposition pattern seems to have slightly deviated. Blake noticed this subtle irregularity. Instead of always being 1 down, 2 across, maybe for a part of it, it was 1 down, 1 across.
Wow. So they had to spot his mistake.
Exactly. Their incredible meticulousness, noticing that subtle shift and being willing to test variations around the expected pattern, correcting for the Zodiac's apparent error, that was absolutely vital. That's what finally made the whole thing click into place.
So after 51 years, what did it say?
Well, they finally got it. And, preserving the original misspellings and lack of punctuation, the message read.
Okay, lay it on us.
I hope you were having lots of fun and trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. So they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise death.
Wow. Paradise. Twice. And slaves. That's chilling.
It really is. The content itself gives you this disturbing look inside his head, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You've got the denial about the TV show caller, the boasting about not feeling the gas chamber, which was the method of execution in California then, and this really unsettling theme about collecting slaves for the afterlife or paradise.
It screams narcissism, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Need for control, grandiosity.
Oh, absolutely. Deep narcissism, a need for power, a profoundly distorted self-image. This desire to taunt, to feel smarter than everyone on some profilers called duping delight, probably drove him to make the ciphers harder and harder. It became part of his MO, his signature behavior.
But it's almost funny in a dark way. He makes it so complex, maybe even screws it up slightly.
Right.
That his big taunt about the TV show doesn't even get read for 51 years. It kind of backfired on his immediate goal.
It's a definite paradox. The complexity might have served his long-term ego, but it undermined the short-term taunt.
And the FBI confirmed the solution. They accepted it.
They did. On December 11th, 2020, the FBI officially announced the Z340 had been solved, crediting Orenchak, Blake, and Van Eyck for their incredible work.
That must have felt validating for them. But, okay, solving the cipher is one thing. It didn't lead straight to handcuffs, did it?
No, unfortunately not. As amazing as the decryption was, it didn't magically overcome all the legal and procedural hurdles in a case this old.
Right. What are the main issues there? Statute of limitations.
Well, thankfully, murder has no statute of limitations in California, so prosecution is still theoretically possible.
Okay, that's good.
But the big problems are evidence-based. Physical evidence degrades over time. Any potential DNA from the letters, assuming it survived at all, is likely partial, maybe contaminated after passing through so many hands over decades.
Yeah, chain of custody must be a nightmare.
Exactly. Maintaining a legally sound chain of custody for 50-plus years is incredibly difficult. And witness memory obviously fades dramatically over that kind of time frame. Plus, you still have the original jurisdictional issues. The crimes happened in multiple different counties.
So a solved cipher is a huge piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't automatically mean the case is closed.
Precisely. The work to definitively identify the Zodiac Killer continues, but the decryption did have other impacts.
Like what? Renewed interest.
Definitely renewed public and media attention, which is always helpful in a cold case. You never know, it might jog someone's memory or bring forward a new lead for the FBI. And even the details of the cipher itself, the specific techniques he used, the error he made, those could be subtle data points. Maybe useful for psychological profiling or comparing against other writings if a strong suspect ever emerges. Forensic experts might find tiny clues in how he constructed it.
Interesting. And looking bigger picture, what does this whole saga teach us?
Yeah.
About code breaking, about cold cases.
I think there are some really key lessons. One is just the sheer power you get when you combine modern heavy-duty computation with those classic old-school cryptographic principles.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly. It also really highlights the potential of international remote collaboration. These three people, continents apart, pooling their very specialized skills.
Yeah, the internet enabling that kind of teamwork.
Totally. It proves that even puzzles that seem absolutely unbreakable for decades can sometimes yield given new approaches, sustained effort, and crucially, leaps in technology.
It feels like a win for crowdsourcing, too, in a way. Like Orenchak's YouTube community.
Absolutely. The value of that shared knowledge, that community focus, and it also shows the power of the passion project. These weren't people assigned the task, they were driven by their own dedication and fascination.
That dedicated amateur advantage.
You could call it that. And none of it would have happened, really, without the internet, accessible, high-performance computing, and specialized software like Decrypt becoming available.
So we end up with this just incredible story, a cipher guarding a killer's taunts for, what, over 50 years?
51 years?
Finally giving up its secrets because these individuals, these sort of modern-day code breakers, just wouldn't let it go.
It's this amazing blend of, dark history, complex code methods, sheer human ingenuity, and 21st century tech all coming together.
Yeah, a real convergence to unlock this decades-old piece of the mystery.
And yet, while we now know what the Z340 said, the biggest piece is still missing. The identity of the Zodiac Killer remains unknown. That question still hangs there.
Right. It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? If this seemingly impossible code tied to such a notorious case could be cracked by this kind of focused effort and collaboration, what other really tough challenges out there, maybe in criminal justice, maybe somewhere else entirely, are just waiting for that same combination, that mix of historical context, deep expertise, and cutting-edge problem solving?
What other unbreakable puzzles might just be breakable?
Exactly. What else is out there?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care and keep your chores company.